All right, here we go. I'm so excited. So I don't do the lives all the time, but when I do them, it's so fun because you also have people join in and comment. So I'm really excited to see what everybody's comments are.
Yes. Am I able to see that too? Oh, we're live. Is it? We live? Yeah.
I, I think we are live, but you can come on. Like now, there's people watching. Hey, y'all, say hello. Um, yeah, if you go on YouTube and go to Trade and Travel, you should be able to see it. Hi, Christopher. Welcome.
All right, let me do that. This is a new experience for me. So I'm learning something. I didn't even know this was a thing. I mean, I know you could go live, but oh, look at you coming up. I type in TRA, and then the first thing I see, oh, course reviews, people out there searching for that info. That's what's up. Yes, I'm in there. I'm in there now.
Nice. And those that are on YouTube, can you hear me? Because I just muted my YouTube, but can you guys hear and see us? Will y'all tell us if you can see us? Hey guys, hey Jill, hey Marcia, hey Russell, hey Ruru, hey April, hey Cynthia, hey Les Payne.
What up,
Hey,
Steve?
hey guys. Okay, so tell me, can y'all hear us okay? Tell us in the comments. We want to make sure y'all can hear us. Okay, good. Christopher says yes, we can hear us. Garnell says yes, he can hear us. And you can see the comments, right, Rich?
Yeah. That's why I'm looking over on this second screen here. So yeah, this is what's up. It's crazy to see myself on two screens. So there's the one that we're talking to each other on right now, and I look over, and then it's me. So I'm doing a little bit of this, but yeah, this is what's up. I can see everything. What's good, folks? Glad to see everyone jumping in and saying what's up.
Yes. So for everybody that's here, please like this video and share it. We're going to talk about the show Hot Mess Millionaire. And if you haven't seen it on YouTube, I mean on Amazon yet, then make sure you watch it. But let us know here, have you guys seen that show? I only saw the first pilot, but Rich actually went and found it on YouTube. So he actually probably knows more than I do about the show, but it had so many gems in it that I just wanted to talk to somebody. So I pulled my friend Rich, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll talk about it with you. Let's go."
Yeah. And what I like about it is how raw it is. And I did watch it with Boo Bookins, as I call her, my girlfriend. And the one thing that made it a little bit tricky is that if you don't have context, or you don't know the doctor, and you stumble into this, you're trying to figure out where things are going, especially because on Amazon, they've only published the pilot episode. But if you go watch the actual full series, or the other episodes on YouTube, you can get more of a sense of like what the overall story is. So it does take a little bit to get into, but the nuggets and gems are definitely there.
I'm seeing a lot of people on here say they haven't seen it yet. So will you introduce yourself, Rich, to like the Trade and Travel family, and then
Oh,
tell us
yes.
what Hot Mess Millionaire is about?
Yeah, so what's good, folks? My name is Rich Jones, host and founder of the Paychecks and Balances podcast slash blog. So I've been in the podcast game for 7 years as of November 30th. So that's been kind of insane. And I was having a conversation with Terry earlier. We're talking investing. We were talking about Hot Mess Millionaire. We're talking about self-care, talked about a bunch of things. So can't wait to put that episode out. And that's going to be dropping in the next couple of weeks here. Got to check in with the editor and what we'll see about that. But super happy to connect with you, to connect with your audience. And you can find me all around the web at I am Rich Jones. So if you want to find me on Twitter, Gram, all of that other stuff. So
Your name just is so fitting. Did you know that like you were gonna have a podcast about paychecks and balances, given your name is Rich?
no, not at all. No, not at all. I knew that I wanted to talk about personal finance and professional development. So professional development is actually like my number one thing. I worked in recruiting and staffing for over a decade. So telling people how to leverage their transferable skills and make pivots, things like that, I've always been really good at, and it's another way for me to be able to help people. But with the podcast, I knew I wanted to talk about those topics, but I previously had another show that was called Two Guys, One Show, which that show is now defunct and no longer exists. And that show was supposed to be what Paychecks and Balances is now, where it's a lot more personal finance and career advice based. Whereas on that show, and I had a co-host at the time, we talked about like everything under the sun. So one episode we might be talking about something that happened with like hip hop or like a reality TV show, and the next episode we might be talking about something personal finance related. And a big lesson from that though, like you gotta have like a main topic you're talking about. You can't be talking about like 30 million different things, because new people find you, they listen, they're like, oh, I like this, they come back for the next episode, you're talking about like Beyonce and no disrespect, because I know the Hive game is strong, but
Exactly. Single ladies.
yeah.
I'm just saying. No,
Yeah.
just
Yeah, but no, it's been a lot of fun, and even coming up with Paychecks and Balances as a name, like that was one of those things where like when you're driving and you have a good idea, have you ever had an idea so good that you have to pull over and write it down?
yes. It was
Yeah,
that good?
yeah. I was driving and I was like, Paychecks and Balances. I just pulled off, pulled off the road, wrote it down. And yeah, that became the name when we relaunched the podcast in 2016. So yeah, P&B has been around for over 4 years now.
Wow. And you guys just got a Plutus Award. Like you're award-winning podcast.
Yes, yes. So Plutus Award for best generational financial literacy content. And so for those that are unfamiliar, Plutus, it's essentially kind of like a Oscars, Emmys for personal finance content creators. And then last year, P&B won best millennial or Generation Z blog. So
Wow.
2 years in a row, award winning. I would try to do a pan to the closet. Actually, you know what? We're live. I'm gonna slide out the screen real quick.
Yeah, do it. We pulling out all the stops out here, y'all.
So this was, I'm not sure why they upgraded the trophy size for this year, but I'm gonna take it. Maybe it's because we're working from home. So this was last year's award next to this year's award. So back to back. And then a lot of people don't know that I was previously a dating and relationship blogger back in the day and ran a website for a while that also like won some awards and so on. So it's nice having a home office. I lived in apartments for most of my life until about a couple of months ago when me and my girl moved into this current spot. So it's nice to actually like,
Congratulations.
yes, thank you. So and I mean, we are renting the house. We didn't buy it. So I want to be clear about that, but it is still nice to be in it together. And
Okay.
it is nice to have like a dedicated home office spot and to be able to put out some of this stuff, even just as a reminder. And we talked about some of this, like sometimes reminding ourselves of the good things that have happened and not just constantly striving. And so even just being able to, when I leave my home office, being able to look and be like, yo, like I've done some
You
things.
made it, right?
Yeah.
I made it, mama. I made it. Like I'm not just coming out here brand new. Like you made it.
Yeah. So and it's and it's good. My coach was telling me, he's like, yo, every now and then I want you to grab that trophy and just go, yes, because he was asking me like, what does excitement or what does pride feel like? He had me doing this exercise where I was standing and he's like, shake it out. There's that type of thing. And he asked me like, what does pride feel like? And I was like, it's a fist pump and it's holding this trophy. And he actually gave me this exercise that when I'm starting to doubt myself, or I'm starting to shun away from something, to actually like grab the trophy and do that fist pump as a reminder. It's almost like when you hear people say do the Superman
pose. Yeah.
It's like that same thing, and it actually works. It's like, yes, like I made it, I'm doing it. So it's good to have like a little something you can do for yourself as a reminder.
I honestly need to do that. And so people are telling you congratulations in the chat because that's really awesome. But I love that he gave you that exercise because like I got an award recently from Teachable and it just felt like another day. And my mom was like, "No, Terry, you need to stop and like realize that you did something really big. Like you need to like actually feel the significance of that." And it kind of goes into this conversation we're about to have about Hot Mess Millionaire, but like sometimes we work so much and we forget to remember the things we've accomplished. and then
Oh,
we got to
yes.
do it.
Yeah, I know. And when we talked about being achievers too, right? And maybe we'll talk about that as part of the conversation. But just it being a gift and a curse, where we're constantly striving. People are telling us that we're gonna make it. They see us make it and say that we made it, but we still don't feel like it ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. We feel like, who are they talking about? Is that
Uh,
me? I made it. What you talking about? I still got this far to go. Okay, now, so for everybody that's here, we know a lot of you guys haven't seen Hot Mess Millionaire, and today, y'all know. So I'm Terry Gioma. I do a lot of things on investing because I quit my job to trade full time and then travel the world. For those that don't know me, and so usually I'm talking about investing, but I love having conversations with other successful people and just talking about all things like investing in yourself and just how to become better. And so today we're talking about a little review of a pilot that I saw called Hot Mess Millionaire. And Rich, will you tell them a little bit more about the show? Like, what was it about? And then we're going to talk about some deep stuff today, guys. So for y'all that are here watching with us, I'm so excited you're here, but I want you to be part of the conversation. Like, let us know too. This is the end of a really crazy year in 2020, and I'm sure that we've all felt all the range of emotions this year. So as you start planning and thinking towards 2021, like this is a good conversation to just really reflect and go deep a little bit and then be ready to come through in 2021. So all right, what was the show about?
yes. So this woman, she is now a PhD from Stanford, Dr. Venus Opal, and it's essentially about her journey to where she is now. But she endured like a lot of stuff over the course of her life. So she went from living on the street to dabbling in all sorts of things and dealing with the pressures of success and trying to come up and trying to keep up with appearances, keep up with the Joneses, feeling like there's not people there supporting. But she does talk about her uncle. I believe it was her uncle who was super supportive of her, and just building a network around her. And so she's an entrepreneur, speaker, author as well. And so it's just raw talk. A lot of it is her on her couch with no makeup on. I think, as you said,
Yeah.
just speaking honestly about what she has felt and what she has experienced, and it's applicable to just like what we feel every day as entrepreneurs, or even just individuals who are trying to do well. I imagine anyone who's watching this video, like they're trying to do well in life. They're probably an achiever, and they're probably thinking about how they can come up. So imagine when you grow up not having all of these things, or what you see modeled around you as the cars and all of this other stuff that you got to show off to prove that you have made it, but you ultimately still don't feel free. So it's a lot of conversation about what she's experienced along the way.
Yeah. And she talks about how she became a millionaire. She had multiple seven figures. She had the cars, the red bottoms, the multiple houses. She's talked about a huge, beautiful home with a courtyard in the middle. But then she said she gave all that up because she started feeling like it was a beautiful cage. And I remember when I was watching the show, I had my computer, it was 3 a.m. in the morning. I had my laptop on my lap, and I'm sitting here doing work at 3 a.m. in the morning. And then she started talking about how an act of self-hate is overworking. And so I'm sitting here and I hear that and I like looked up and I like immediately shut my computer, move it to the side. I live by myself. So I'm like, who's watching me? But I feel like someone's like seeing me right now. Like she's gonna see that I'm working at 3 a.m. in the morning and I mean and so I throw it to the side and then I like rewatch the show and I'm really engaged. I take like a ton of notes. This is what Rich is like, Terry, you took like a manual. I took a ton of notes. And I'm like, I just need somebody to talk to about this. Can we please talk about this? So I'm happy that we're finally going to talk about it. And I feel like what might be good is for me to like share some of like the quotes that really stood out. And then I think maybe we
Yes,
should talk through some of them. Does that work for you?
that works for me. Let's do it.
Okay. And for those in the chat, y'all know how I am. I want to hear your thoughts too, like as I'm going through this. So as I say this quote, I want to hear like what, like put in the chat what this brings up for you. All right. All right, here we go. It's like all my notes. I took a ton. All right.
I mean, you really did. I wrote 2 bullet points, and I was proud of myself. I was like, we're just gonna have this back and forth, and then you came out with that composition notebook and flip pages. I was like, oh, okay, okay.
You're like, how about you start, Terry? You start on your notes. And then I'm gonna come in with my notes. Um, okay, so one of them she talked about was building a life, and actually I won't even say all the quotes at the same time. I'll just say like one as we go through. Um, yeah, okay, actually, okay, we're gonna start from the beginning. So in the beginning of the show, she like opens up and she tells us about this 7-figure life. But then she talks about the fact that she said, you don't have a right to say I'm not happy and that and there was nothing wrong. So her big thing was she was doing so well that she didn't feel like she could say that she wasn't happy. And she was wondering like how other people would feel if they see her in this 7-figure job, work from home, work from anywhere, all these things that are supposed to make you happy, but she wasn't happy. And I want to know, like, Rich, what does that bring up for you when you hear somebody say, like, do you think she had the right to say she wasn't happy if she was making 7 figures and like being able to travel and live this life?
It actually makes me think of the times where I have been feeling down for whatever reason, and people, they mean well when they say like, "Oh, you have all of these good things going on, like you should be happy." And I think you're entitled to feel how you feel. I think even when you're having success, and I found that what happens is we'll be doing well overall in life, and then we'll feel bad and for feeling bad. So one, we feel bad about something that's happening, and then we feel bad about feeling bad because we should feel good because everyone is telling us that we should feel good about things. But no, it is okay to feel how you feel, and it's actually something that I've been reminding myself a lot about lately. So that's like the thing that immediately came to mind for me. Like, no, if you even if things are good, it's almost like when someone pulls the like if you don't like something that you ordered at a restaurant and they say like, oh, there's kids starving in Africa, it's like what does that have to do with me right now? Like, this doesn't taste good, like this doesn't change my current situation. So it's the same type of idea where if things aren't going well, even if you got good health, even if you're waking up in the morning, you're still entitled to be tired. You're still entitled to be annoyed that the hot water's not on. You're still entitled to not be happy in that particular moment versus feel bad that you feel bad because people are telling you that you should feel good, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I was listening to this podcast called Hello Seven podcast, and one of the speakers was Maria Cause or Mariah Cause. Have you heard of her before?
That's whose course I bought.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Small world.
Yeah.
So she was on the podcast and she talked about how when she hit her first million, she went through about a depression. And it was one of those things of, is this what a million is supposed to feel like? Like, I've done all this work, I've worked really hard to get here, and now what? Like, and she like really went through depression. And I remember thinking, like, I hadn't hit a million yet when, or did I hit a million when I had listened to that, I remembered kind of thinking, huh, I wonder what that's like. And then when I hit that stage, I also went through a bit of depression. And it's one of those things where everything's okay. Like, you literally have everything that you're supposed to want. And now you get all this money. And why aren't you happy? And I know that even this year with COVID, like COVID was really tough for me. I love being out, seeing the world. And when we went through quarantine, like that was tough. I just felt like something was missing. And I remember I was working really hard. My business was flourishing. I was making all this money, and my mom was staying with me during quarantine. And she, like a couple months in, because quarantine is long. So about 3 months in, she was like, you know what? The past 3 months, I haven't seen you happy.
Mm.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? And this is when like we discussed, I'm sure you saw on Instagram and everything's good and like, oh man, Terry is growing like crazy and da da da. But at the same time, like I was grinding and I was working my job and I was, hitting these milestones in business, but the things that make me happy aren't really money.
Mm.
So yeah, so I definitely resonated with this. Like I everything was great, everything nothing was wrong, but I didn't feel like I could say I'm not happy.
You know, you just reminded me of something else within that, because I'm also thinking about when you are doing well, and let's say, the people that you normally associate with, they're in different spots or they're not where you are. It actually can feel kind of isolating too, where you feel like you can't have a conversation with anyone because people don't get it. I mean, there are people who get it. We got our mastermind groups, and there's the whole surround yourself with, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with, blah 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 blah. But for a lot of us, we are that person who's within our circle of friends, or one of the people who in our family, like one of the few who has, made it. And we've heard the comments where people say it's lonely at the top, right? And I'm not saying like, we're sitting here on top of the world, because at the end of the day, we're still humans. We come from the earth just like everybody else.
Mhm.
But it can be isolating where people perceive your life to be going so well, and you're feeling down and you're not feeling great and you're tired and you don't feel like you can actually talk to anybody about it, because people perceive your life to be one thing, and they actually kind of turn their nose at you, to turn their nose up at you a bit, and say that you're not being gracious, or you're not practicing gratitude, when you're actually practicing being human.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that leads kind of into another part where she talked about like in these jobs, I think people don't realize that there's the good parts of the job, but then there's also the like not so good parts. So like she had this comment about how she was answering, okay, she's like you give and MF, so I'm trying not to cuss, but I'm not even good at it. Everybody laughs when I cuss anyway. So, but she's like, you give, and MFs don't say thank you, becomes an expectation, obligation, and people feel entitled to you. And she was talking about how, at one point, another part of the video, she talked about how, yeah, I'm supposed to be having all this fun, but I'm having to answer all these people's refund requests, answer their complaints, respond to their comments. And that part is not joy. She's like, that part feels like duty. It feels like obligation. It feels like pressure. And there are those parts of every job that there's parts you love, but then there's parts that are really hard. And I feel like sometimes as influencers, people don't see that part of what we actually have to go through.
Yeah, and I think it goes to that point, like using that word human again, where people expect, because you are doing well, that sometimes up like this comes with the territory, like you're a public figure, like just like politicians or athletes or musicians or whatever else, like you should be able to take it, or we should be able to say whatever we want to you. But at the end of the day, no, I am a
A
human.
human.
And
Yeah.
the other thing about it was, even around, let's take YouTube for example. There are a lot of people who are watching this who've been following you, maybe like a couple of folks who've been following me, and you've built a relationship with folks without ever actually meeting in person, and there's this level of comfort that's built to where people may feel comfortable just kind of like reaching out and saying whatever, or saying, hey, like I want to, hey, you down to jump on this call? Because I've had people do that too, where it's like, yo, I know I'm providing a lot of like free advice, and I'm happy to do that because it brings me joy. But the level of comfort to where, we don't have like an in-person relationship, and to just like shoot me a message and be like, yo, can we jump on a call in 20? And it's like, I don't even, what, like I,
Like, I
I
don't
know I'm
even know
tweeting
you.
at the, it's like I know I'm tweeting. I know you just saw me fire off this tweet or get this gram off, or get this story off. But so that doesn't mean that I'm just like free and hanging out and waiting to have a conversation. So there's kind of that balance where
Mhm.
I think being an influencer, we do have this additional accountability, and we have to expect that while there's positive sides of humanity and humans, there's also kind of a negative side of it as well. And so there is kind of a responsibility on our part to know that not everyone who approaches us is going to be gracious and is going to understand, and not everyone who approaches us is not going to feel slighted because we didn't want to talk to them at the time that they wanted to have a conversation. Which is, I've had that happen a couple of times, unfortunately.
Yep. And she actually talked about that too in the show. She talked about how after a while it felt like she was just trying to say what people wanted her to say. But then that's what led to her feeling like she was in a cage because she couldn't be herself because she was worried about like the comments and what people would say about what she was doing. And then one thing I did not agree with in the show, and I'd love your thoughts too on this, her thing was that she kind of, I think she spent trying to keep up appearances. So it seemed like in the show that like one of the reasons why she like had gone after like, okay, I need to have this Mercedes and then I need to have this Mercedes and I need to have these red bottoms and I need to have this. Like that's not part of my story because I don't care that much. But
I never owned a pair of Jordans, by the way.
you didn't? Okay, I do have to say, back in high school, I like to have shoes in every color. So I worked at
Uh,
J.C. Penney's, and I would just go buy shoes in every color.
I respect it. I respect it.
But she was just like, so I do think part of what was going on with her is she was trying to keep up appearances. But I think all of that was her trying to please all the people that had started following her. Like she had built up this following and she felt like she needed to be somebody else for them.
Yeah, and that will happen, and it happens to people every day. That's the whole concept, even in some ways, of keeping up with the Joneses, with the keeping up with appearances and having to floss. There's this commercial that I think of back when in-person basketball games was a thing. I think it was for StubHub, where this father and the son are sitting on the couch and they see their neighbors at the game and they're like, the Johnsons are at the game, how did they get tickets? And then they immediately go buy tickets to the game, and it's like, y'all were fine watching the game at home together, and now you just probably paid some super marked up price to go there and keep up with the people around you. And that's super real. But something else that I just thought about that I think I've experienced personally is this idea of the brand, doing it
Mm,
for the brand. And it took me a while to understand like what the brand, what my brand really was, because to me, the idea of the brand, it was like really restrictive. It felt like, if I wanted to tweet something or if I wanted to post something, oh no, I can't say that because that's off brand. And there was a point in time where I actually became pretty disgruntled with social media because I felt like I couldn't be myself because it was all about like the brand and, oh, I'm talking about career, so I only can talk about that, or oh, I'm talking about this, so I can't venture into this topic, and I didn't have an outlet to be myself. But what I realized is that a lot of that was also self-imposed, you know
talk about it. Yep.
where no one ever told me I couldn't talk about those things. I was kind of just looking at what I saw other folks doing out there, or what the gurus were doing, the people who were saying niche down and this and that. But no one ever said that, if I wanted to talk about professional wrestling one day, because I am a professional wrestling fan, I even got the chair in the closet from the events I've been at.
I
But
learned so much about you.
it's, yeah, I'm like a huge pro wrestling fan. Shout out to the Undertaker for his retirement. And and yeah, like I got to a point where I said, you know what, I don't care. Like I'm just gonna be me. I'm just gonna be me. And I think the other part of it was I had this fear of like, oh, if I talk about this, I'm going to lose followers. People are gonna
Mm,
drop off. And I think part of what makes folks successful, and I'd say, and I've even, you've been just like very consistent and you're very comfortable in who you are. And
thanks.
and even talking about like the Bible or talking about faith, that alienates people, but that doesn't stop you from talking your truth. That doesn't stop you from being who you are. That doesn't stop you from saying praise God. That doesn't stop you from referencing the Bible, even though that may be turning certain folks off. But that's part of it, because you can't be for everybody. And look at how taking that approach and walking in your truth has blessed you. And it's interesting that as I'm becoming more comfortable and putting myself out there and saying, screw it, I'm just going to be me, how more blessings are starting to come my way. So I'm curious if that's also the experience for folks who are listening and following along.
Yes, yes. And y'all tell us in the chat this is resonating with you. Um, but you know what? That I know that all the blessings that I've gotten have been because of God. And like I just have to give him the glory. Like there is for me, there is no other way. And if somebody comes along and they don't like that, well then, hey, you just don't like me, and that's okay. but I can't pretend that I don't love Jesus. Like I do. And I know that all this is coming because of him. And I actually did a Bible study on YouTube the other day. And some, like, of course, in the comments, like there's like some crazy people that are like, no, women are not supposed to preach, and women, are supposed to wear dresses and not pants. Like, there's always going to be somebody, but hey, like the God that I serve is so much bigger than them. And if I don't step in my truth, like who would I be? Right. So, like, that is important to me. But I do have to say, on the flip side, you do not know how many yellow shirts I have because my brand for a long time was yellow and blue. And I felt like every time I go outside, I got to have on a yellow shirt so that I could put this on the Instagram. If
Your
I don't
gang
have
colors.
I don't have the right color shirt on, I won't be able to post it because it's not with the brand. So like every time I went out, my friends were like, "Oh, you got another gold shirt?" Yeah, because if we gonna take a picture, it can't go up unless I got the right color shirt on. And like that really can take over your life. That sounds so small, but it's just you try to become the brand, and at some points the brand has to become you. Like it's just, hey, I am who I am, right?
I love that so much. And I think part of what held me back, even with something like Instagram, is feeling like everything had to be perfect. And I mean, it is a visual platform, so you can't be posting those fire festival sandwiches, talking about look at what I'm having for dinner, and it's just cheese and bread. You will still get clowned for that. But I think I've accepted that things aren't going to be perfect. I mean, even jumping on this live stream. I mean, a year ago, this I probably wouldn't have done this. I probably would have gave you excuses. I would have said, I got to go do something
I'm so proud
because
of you.
yeah, because it would have been like, I got to be perfect. I got to shave. I got this whole thing. So even something like being on like a video, like in glasses, like normally it'd be like, oh wait, I got to go put my contacts in. But no, like that's not how I sit around. Like that's
Mhm.
I'm wearing glasses like 95% of the time. The only time I don't wear them is when I'm working out, which sounds bad because that means I'm only working out 5% of the whatever. At least I'm working out at all. But I'm with you on that, where we sometimes create restrictions for ourselves, and for you, that having to wear yellow, where did you get that from? So not so much the color, but just the idea that like you need to be in like on brand
On
that
brand.
way.
You know, so one, I think the fake made up people in my head, of course, the ones that say like, it's got to be perfect, and if all of the things in your tiles are pink and yellow, then you need to be pink and yellow. Like that's what perfection is, right? So a little bit of that, and then I think a little bit of in one of my last jobs for by the Hand Club, it was a ministry. My boss, she had worked for an advertising agency in the past, and so everything we did had to look beautiful, and we couldn't put anything out that didn't look like our brand. And like, I think that's something I definitely learned from her. So it's a blessing that I learned that because now it shows up in my work. But at the same time, I think sometimes I overdo it because I'm thinking like if it doesn't all show professionalism, then people are going to think that your program is half done, or if you put something out and there's a typo in it, then people are going to feel like you don't know how to spell and you're stupid, and they're not going to look at your course. And I've learned to accept that, hey, if people are that petty, then you don't need the information anyway. Not
Worst
that I'm not
customers.
gonna, right, not that I'm not gonna try to be perfect, because I want to give my best. Like that's just who I am. I'm gonna give my best in everything that I do, but not to the point where it kills me. Because what I also have learned is people need the information more than I need to be perfect. And like there was a part of my course that I literally held back for almost a year because I didn't feel like it was good enough. And I kept trying to, like, so I would do lives of the curriculum, just trying to figure out how the best way was to teach it. And then finally it was like, Terry, if you don't put this curriculum out, like your people are going to have a revolt. Hopefully not, but still, like you need to put this out. But literally it was just me not feeling it was good enough. And then I finally get it out there, and now people are making money from it, but I was the one holding myself back. So honestly, sometimes it's just like we're our worst enemy. So to answer your question, probably me.
So much of it is in our heads, and the thing is, we hear so much about it, but we still fall victim to it. So we know that I mean, imposter syndrome. How long we've been hearing about that, and it still
Right.
happens. The saboteur, or the name it and claim it. The demon, or whatever you want to call it, that's leading to the negative self talk. How often do we hear about that? And it still happens. I even found that I engage in negative self-talk. I think this is somehow still related. I noticed that I have a pattern that when I'm getting ready in the morning and when I'm shaving and doing my routine, that's when I have my most random imaginary person negative thoughts. And it's something I have to like consciously catch myself doing, where so sometimes I'll even imagine feedback that no one has actually given me. I'll imagine
Really?
that I'm reading something that doesn't actually exist, that someone is saying something that they haven't actually said. I've even had fake arguments with myself in the mirror in anticipation of a conversation that I was going to have that actually turned out to go completely in a positive direction. So a lot of it really is self-imposed, and I think where we often have the opportunity is self-awareness. I like to say self-awareness is sexy, because a lot of people 40, 50, 60, whatever age, don't have it.
Hmm.
And I think once you start to really get a grasp of that, things don't become easy, but they become easier, you know?
Yeah. And I actually want to go a little deeper on that because I know that negative self talk actually is really big in investors too. Like, especially as so, like if I take a trade and it doesn't go right, I would catch myself immediately jumping to the negative, like you knew better, you shouldn't have done that. And like it can really be the downfall of us as investors. So I want to ask like two questions. One, what do you think caused you to start doing like why were you doing that negative self-talk in the morning?
Oof, that's a fantastic question. I mean, if you want the real deep answer, it's past trauma, honestly, attachment style, abandonment, childhood issues, domestic issues, out like all of those things. And this is stuff that I've learned from going through therapy, but like that's the real of it. Like that's what it all gets traced back to. And it's
Mm.
interesting because, and we talked about this on my show as well, but like those things that like weren't great, they're a gift and a curse for me. So that like you're not good enough is why I'm constantly striving to achieve. But
Mm.
at the same time, those are negative thoughts, and I can beat myself up over stuff that nobody else is really thinking about. Like nobody's thinking like, he's wearing glasses, Coke bottles. Like nobody is saying that to a 36, 37-year old man. At least I hope not. If you
They're
are still making
not.
those.
We
Yeah,
all need glasses, I'm just
yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We all. I mean, I do get some jokes about when the lens transition, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, a lot of that for me, that negative self talk, it's rooted in stuff that I didn't address for most of my adult life, and things that I really started only addressing in the past few years. And even though I know like why I do it, and it's actually a defense and protection mechanism, oddly enough. So it's kind of like
How
if
so?
well, in the sense that if I say these things like to myself first, or if I anticipate these things first, then I'm prepared for when somebody actually says them.
Yeah, like it won't hurt as much because I've already said it.
Yeah, it's like Rabbit in 8 Mile. If you've seen the movie where he's rapping against the dude at the end, and he says all of this negative stuff about
Mm.
himself first, so that the other dude has nothing left to say. It's the same type of thing, and that's why and I find that with creative people, self included. I think we're both in this. Like I can come up with some pretty like
Mhm.
wild scenarios in my head of things that could go wrong. Even when it comes to like giving presentations and stuff like that, I can't even imagine what I would be like if I was just out there investing it in the way that you're investing. I'm probably more like Jamila in terms of like the long term play with the ETFs and so on.
Mhm.
But I mean, part of what I've never given a talk or a speech that did not go well, and I'm probably going to jinx myself with that and go out
Do
and bomb
knock
the
on some
next one,
wood,
but
right?
that's
Knock on
okay.
some
But yeah, so knock on wood. But what I've noticed, and this gets back into that gift and curse side of it, is that I do so well because like all of the negative things that I anticipate beforehand leads me to practice more and more and more so that I mitigate the risk of that bad thing happening as much as I possibly can, and it's worked out for me. But uh, at 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 some point in time, it's just gonna have to be like, yo, I mess up. I mean, of course, if I'm getting like paid a handsome fee to speak or something like that, I'm gonna make sure that I'm on point. And the other thing, and I realize I'm rambling a bit, is
No, it's okay.
I think that sometimes that we need to realize, especially when we're like questioning our work, just because we are people who are super ambitious, that even like our 50% or even like what's a poor job to us is still better than the
Still.
majority of
Yeah.
what, yeah.
That's true. Like I definitely have had to realize that, especially with like this year being on lots of podcasts and being more in the limelight. It seemed like for a little while, I felt like the devil was coming after me because every single time it seemed like I had technical issues. And I started to feel like man, I just suck. I can't believe this is happening to me again. But then I realized like hey, I'm just gonna have a plan A, B, and C. If technical issues come up, which I'm sure they will, then I'm gonna have another backup and another like and then I just had to say, you know, it is what it is. At least I gave my best. And that kind of took some of the pressure off. But I do wonder, so back to the negative self-talk. So what did you do to get over it? Or have you done anything to get over it?
Oh, I haven't completely gotten over it. I mean, even just like yesterday morning, I caught myself. I was shaving and I was thinking something to myself, and I'm like, man, here I go again. Or I'll be sometimes just like driving. So I'm one of the people who can actually drive in silence. I know there's a lot of people have to
I
have
do
music
that.
on when they're in the car, and I think my girlfriend like hates this, that like I can be in the car like driving for an hour in complete silence, because to me that's actually a time of freedom, like being alone with my thoughts and being able to think, and not having to put on appearances or having to talk. I'm like actually an extreme introvert. But with that, like I find that like I literally have to like catch myself and redirect, and it's kind of like I was doing the thing like with the trophy. Like this is like a redirection where it's like, where if I'm
Mm.
having that negative thought, I have to be like come on now. In the past I've done in an honesty jar. Have you heard of that?
No, what's that?
Or honesty or slash encouragement jar. So when you get positive feedback, you essentially, you, whether you print it out or whatever, you cut it up and you put whatever positive feedback you get into a jar, so that when you're having these moments of doubt, you have something to refer back to. And I mean, you
Mm.
could honestly do it in a doc. You could, if you use project management software or something like that, you could do that in there. But the idea is to build up a bank of positive reinforcement and encouragement to counter that negative self-talk, because I don't think that the negative self-talk is ever completely squashed. It's more so about how you're managing it on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it's like, I don't want to say any other condition, but it's like a lot of things where like, for example, like, oh, like, you have like chronic back pain, like you're never going to completely get rid of it, but there are certain things that you can do to minimize how frequently it comes up, like whether it's doing more core work or whatever it is, or you're taking
Mhm.
something for it. So it's the same thing with that, with the negative
With the
self-talk. and
self-talk.
and what I have found to be the most helpful is when I get into a routine and I get into a state of flow. And when I say that, like when I'm at my absolute best and I'm killing the world, that sounds awful. I'm not killing the world.
But we get it. We
I'm
get it.
killing.
Own
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
You're killing it.
I'm not COVID. When I'm killing the game, it's, I'm working out, which means that I'm also eating well, because I can't get a good workout in if I've been eating like crap. And that means that I'm probably also being more ruthless about my time, because if I'm not managing my time appropriately, then I'm probably not working out, then I'm not eating well. And that also means that if I'm doing these things in alignment with these habits, then I'm also doing things with my podcast. I'm doing things with my business, and I have more time to be able to help people. And I feel really good. And so it's like a cycle of, of reinforcement throughout the
Mm.
day where boom, I ate well today. I worked out today. I had time this morning or this evening because I had energy that I wouldn't normally have to work on my business or to work on this messaging that I want to put out there, this email that I want to put out there for people. And it sort of creates a positive feedback loop. The challenge with that though is if you depend on like that habit cycle, it is what happens when you fall off. And I think that's
When
where,
you don't have yeah.
yeah, and so like when I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it on here yet, but I mentioned on the show, like when I hurt my back, I'd been in a regular workout routine, eating well, doing my keto light, and then like once I hurt my back and I was like kind of crippled for a couple of weeks,
And
I had,
did you hurt it on the Peloton or doing something else?
embarrassingly enough, I heard it getting on the bike to do a warm up.
Oh
Like, yeah,
no.
but it's like the third time that I've done something like this. And the last time I hurt my back, it was folding a blanket, and it all like ties to like core stuff and just like neglect, for lack of a better word, because there are certain things that we'll spend more time on. You want to talk about the bench press, you want to talk about, doing squats on top of that, but like that routine maintenance for like the core, and it's those little exercises, and also even understanding how connected the human body is. And I'm going to try to bring this home. So let's take back pain. In my case, it turns out that like my back isn't the actual issue. The issue is in my hamstrings.
Oh.
And because I don't stretch my legs as frequently as I should, and everything is connected, it creates tightness like up through my hip. And I won't get into all like the doctor stuff about it, but like the pain that I'm experiencing in my back is because of something that I'm not taking care of elsewhere.
Mm.
And I mean, that's what happens in life. You want to talk about money, you want to talk about like mental health. If your mental health isn't in order, you're probably not going to be spending diligently. Or if you're not, or if work's not going well, your home situation is probably not going to be going well. So I think the bringing it home is that everything is connected.
It
And
really
if
is.
and if you don't address one thing, there's going to be compensation somewhere else. So a lot of it is about how do you continuously create balance, and how do you continuously maintain. And I think for me, as it relates to the negative self-talk, it's just like acknowledging that it's going to be there, but when it does happen, quickly catching myself. And I'll actually be like, no, 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 not today. I'll talk to myself like that and be like, no, 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 not today. And it's going to ultimately be whatever works for people, and gets them comfortable. Everyone's going to have their own thing for how they overcome that.
We're gonna need to do that together. I'll be like, no, 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 not today.
No, no, no,
So
not today.
that's gonna be the key. I love everything that you said though. You were really just preaching right there. And I was like, I'm gonna let him preach because that is so true. It's those little acts of self-care that are gonna carry you through. And when you're not doing all the pieces, other parts are gonna suffer. And I love how you said my back was hurt, but it really wasn't a back thing. It was that I didn't stretch my hamstrings. And I feel like so many times in life we neglect a part of our life and then it shows up somewhere else and we think that this is the problem over here, but
Yes.
that's not really the problem is the neglect that you gave to this part of your life over here. and
Yes.
and I feel that like even in like as we're talking about just our mindsets and things like I think sometimes we need to realize like we can really get burnt out, especially as entrepreneurs, when we're neglecting other parts of our life or other parts of our bodies, if we're not fully being like holistic in our approach to our life and ourself.
Yes, and I'll give you one more example, and it's gotten me in trouble in past relationships where I can get tunnel vision. Like
Mm.
when I'm working on something and it's going well and I'm really into it, and I'm getting satisfaction out of it. It's almost like a addiction in a way, but I mean positive in my case, where I'll get tunnel vision about, my business and personal finance and career advice, and I can get like so invested in it and have the blinders on so much that other things start falling by the wayside. And that's what I say, where I mean it has impacted past
You
relationships where,
better not mess up Boobakins.
so
Uh,
I said past,
right.
past.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have since learned, but to me, it was, I'm doing something that's helpful. It's fulfilling. It's renewing me. This is great. I'm feeling a high off of it. Like, people are. I'm impacting lives. I'm changing the world. But but I'm, now in the home office for, well, it wasn't a home office at the time, but now I'm in the other room, for 6 hours. And now, when it's time to have a conversation, I'm too tired, or I'm constantly checking my phone because, oh, I got to get back to this person who reached out about this proposal for this thing. And so we've got to be careful about that too. So, even with like the hamstring back thing, like I love doing leg workouts. Like that's fantastic. Like, yeah, I love doing squats. I'm great at doing like squats and those types of workouts. But
You're
other things are being
neglecting another. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I mean, and so that's where, even like with the like with something like that, even with the squats, it's like, yeah, I'm making this stronger, but I'm not stretching, I'm not doing the maintenance, and now it's showing up in my back. And I think much like life, I I've hurt my back, like, a few times now, and it it happens a different way each time, but the core problem is still the same, you know?
Mm.
So it's like, oh, I was folding the blanket. Oh, I stepped off the curb wrong. Oh, I got on the bike funny. It's like, yeah, it's happened different ways, or it showed up different ways each time, but I still have not addressed the core issue, you know?
And what I'm hearing in that too is it's showing up in something super small and insignificant, like you were folding a blanket, and then all of a sudden your life is blown up because now you can't really walk the same because your back is hurting. And you're thinking, well, dang, it was just because I was folding this blanket. But there were all these things under the, not just to use this analogy, but it's like there's all these things under the surface that now are showing up in just this small thing of folding a blanket. And I feel like there's probably some people out there that can really relate. Like something really small probably happened in their life recently, and all these things are coming up that they were holding down for the year or more.
Yeah, it's I'm smiling because I'm thinking about a couple in the kitchen, and someone doing dishes and like crying, and the partner saying like, "What do you like?" It's like it's not a big deal. It's just the dishes, and the person say, "It's not about the dishes." Like that's what that's what I'm imagining right now. But like that's I love that point, and I appreciate you for cleaning up the back analogy for me, and bringing it home.
You got it anytime, anytime. And I do want to guys, I hope you guys are enjoying this because this right now is like cathartic for me because I've been wanting to talk about this show with somebody, and I hope that y'all are enjoying it too. So let us know if you like some of this is resonating with you, and if you've ever had some places in your life where you were kind of neglecting that area. And hopefully this is kind of bringing to your mind some thoughts of, you know what, in 2021 I'm not going to neglect this part of myself or this love. Like, yeah, even for me right now, I'm thinking about, like, I love to dance, and I haven't danced in a long time. Like, I when I studied abroad in Madrid, I actually studied Latin dance, and I performed tango on the stage. And when I was younger, I was part of this professional dance team, and I don't think a lot of people know that about me. But when I'm not being creative and choreographing and dancing, like, a little bit of me kind of dies a little bit. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to next year, of, or even now, like, it can start today, but of really getting back into dance, even if it's just like pulling up some YouTube videos and following along with the choreography. Like, there's parts of, excuse me, there's parts of each of us, I think, that we got to just think of what is that thing that you let kind of go.
Yeah. What does dancing represent for you?
For me, it represents, well, like my big thing is freedom, but for me, it represents freedom because like my body can kind of move however it wants to move. And like I don't have to be in anybody's box. I can just flow. And like I just feel really free when I dance. And to tell you the truth, like as I've gotten older, I've gotten more stiff because I haven't been like stretching. So I'm not even the best dancer anymore. But just like I love the creativity of choreographing. Like in college, I was the captain of the step team. And we actually
Wow.
won step shows and won awards. We were like the number one at Nesby one year. And it was just the creativity of like thinking of the beats and thinking of the dance routines. It was just awesome. So that piece of me, like I still get to create, and I think that's why I like my course now too, because in trade and travel, I got to create how I wanted to teach and create like the PowerPoints and the lessons. And so now, now that the curriculum's kind of like etched in stone, I'm kind of like, okay, well, what else is next? What do I get to create next? But that's a piece of me that I cannot neglect because I know that when I do, it's just not fun anymore.
Yes, yes, and even I asked the dance question because I think I knew the answer was going to be freedom, but I wanted to see the smile and and that's the thing, like when you're doing that thing that like really brings you joy, or that is really, that when you feel like you're living within your values, you can't do anything but smile, you know. And
So
so
you
that and so
look crazy on camera. That's what you're saying right now. You just made me like do all the moves.
I saw like half of them. The other half, I was trying to look into the actual camera
Oh,
myself. But
okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I mean, freedom is. I mean, because freedom is up there. It's in my top three. I used to think freedom was my what was my number one value, but my number one is actually authenticity. Number two is making a difference. And what I realized is that when I'm doing those two things, I experience freedom. Like that's when I feel most free. So it's like value one plus value two equals value three.
Oh, that's good. I need to write that down.
Yeah,
What do
I
you
need to
say?
I need I need to put
Value
that
one plus
into
value two.
yeah, I need to put that up in my course for whenever I whenever I put that out there. I got to find a reason to use that. But it's real. Like I thought for years that my number one value was freedom. But then I realized like when I feel that I can't be myself, it's like what I was saying about being on social media and like not being able to talk about things. Like when I feel like I can't be myself, I and like I'm being restricted, not freedom. Even going to a day job where I had to wear a suit, I vowed that I will never have to wear a suit to work again. I will, I if you see me like going into an office wearing a suit and I'm not speaking at an event and I'm not speaking at an event, like that's just what I'm wearing to work. I have taken steps back in my life, or I'm in a dire financial situation, and that was the only choice for me,
So
because
we
that
need to
doesn't.
check on you. We need to check on you if we see
Yeah,
you in a suit.
yeah, because it's not just about like the suit itself, but it's what the suit represents to me. And I'm not knocking anybody that wears suits. It's but to me, in a work context, it represents restriction. It represents like
Mm.
conformity and having to fit in. Like I actually work somewhere where I was doing a sales job, and if you wore anything other than a white or blue shirt to work with your tie, people would kind of look at you funny. Like it was like that's like strict and
Whoa.
rigorous. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
I mean,
no.
and people wouldn't like, they wouldn't be like, hey, you need to go home and change, but like it would be enough of a comment to where you'd be like, all right, I'm gonna go buy me a couple more white shirts, or I'm gonna go, I'm gonna keep it tame. And just like that, like knowing that like that's not how I want to be dressed, and I'm only doing it because that's what's expected of me in this like workplace, like that's not freedom. Or
Mm.
or working on things that aren't meaningful. And we all got to do things to pay the bills, but even where I found like the most career dissatisfaction is where I just felt like a number, and I was just like doing a job, and I wasn't actually like making a difference. I mean, yeah, I was adding to the company's bottom
Mhm.
line, but like I wasn't actually making a difference in people's
Like your
lives.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me this, because this was one of the questions that came up in the show. She said the real measure of success, and then her answer, I won't even say her answer because I want to know what your answer is. So, what do you think is the real measure of success?
Ooh. The real measure of success. And we're live. There ain't no editing this out.
And
Uh
y'all can put something in the chat too. What's y'all's measure of success? Real measure of success. Do you want me to
uh
tell you what she said or no?
well, it's making me actually reflect for myself, and it's I can see the lifestyle, but it's not something I can just put into like one or two
Mhm.
words. So I'm gonna let you go with what her answer was.
Okay, okay, good. Because I'm if you were saying go with what you say, I was like, I have to think too. So her answer was how many times you get back up. She said that was the real measure of success.
Mm.
When she said it though, it didn't really resonate with me. Like, yeah, that's it. I was like, oh, you took the easy route.
Yeah.
Um,
I- so there is something to perseverance. I do think that you can't have success without failure. Um, but yeah, like that's not I wouldn't, when I think success, like I think I go back to values again, and I'm like, like what would, if I were sitting somewhere and just feeling completely content, what would that be like? And it's actually like not too much different than what we're doing at this very moment. Where like I'm like, yo,
mm,
I'm having a conversation about something that's meaningful. There's like-minded folks who are participating in the conversation. Like I'm doing something that I find a art, and that and that I love. And like I'm in like I'm in like my home. Well, my rented
that's
home.
your home. That's your
You know,
home.
I'm in my home in a space that my girlfriend and I like put together and like designed and like laid out like that. Like that feels like success to me. Or even on the financial front, like not having to like argue about like every dollar, and well, I paid for this, so like you'll pay for this, and like, oh, like I noticed you didn't, like, no, it's just like, oh, I'll, like let's go 50-50. And it's like, like, babe, no, I got it. Like I'm, I'm not hurting for cash or anything like that.
Yeah.
And we're both in a good financial situation, so we've got security, we've got safety, and success, at least maybe in a financial way, is, to me, is when I have that moment where like I don't know what else to buy. It's like I have everything that like I need, and like there's
Yeah.
yeah, it's like what else? I'm like, man, I'm looking around, like I've got everything that I need. I don't really, I mean, aside from like food, water, shelter, stuff like that, but I have those things. And the first moment that I had that, it was kind of like, yo, I'm in a much different place than I was a few years ago, to where I can't even think of like what I want to buy or need to buy, because I already have everything that's important to me. That is a success feeling right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm thinking about at Thanksgiving, I made a decision to choose me at Thanksgiving. So for Thanksgiving, my family, we all went to this campsite, and my mom and my aunt, they're like the matriarchs of the family now because my grandmother passed away. And so my mom and aunt, they love camping. So our whole family got these three cabins, and then my mom has a RV with my stepdad, and my other aunt rented an RV. So we did like this 2 or 3 days just camping near a place in Texas, not too far away. But Friday morning, the stock market was actually open. So Thursday, the market is closed. Friday morning, the market opened. And I caught myself in the morning, like going to trade. And then like I was trading, I actually made some money, but like I guess I could have made more, but I consciously made a decision to choose my family. Like my whole family is here. You're not going to get another chance to be with all of them. Put your phone down and go be with them. And like for me, that felt like success because I chose me. And it sounds stupid because investing is for me too, and my businesses are for me, but I chose what was important and I was able to do that with ease. And so that's like the real measure of success, I think, for me is being able to live in the moment with peace of mind and not feel like I need to be anywhere else. I can just enjoy this moment right now. I think for me, that's what success is.
I love that. And even if you think about like what allows you to be able to have that peace of mind and be able to do that though, you know?
Tis true. Tis true. I have to admit that like I've made it to a financial place where I don't have to really rush for more money. Although that's a personal struggle that I have to deal with, always wanting more, even though like you clearly are fine. But I personally always assume that there's somebody else ahead of me that I gotta get to. And I'm like, well, you don't have to be Steve Jobs, you don't have to be Netflix tomorrow, you don't need to be Slack selling your company for 27 billion, which would be nice, but you don't have to be them today. Um, but I think for whatever reason, I look at those people that are super far ahead of me and I don't realize that I'm actually doing pretty, like you said, our 50% is still higher than most people's 100%. But there, so yes, there, I know that I am well blessed to be able to make that decision. But I think at any stage, like I wish that even when I was an educator, I would have took the time to just enjoy the moment. And there were so many times in my life where I feel like I wasn't enjoying the moment. I was always striving for something else or assuming that there was like somewhere else to get. But like that's not really success, that's more work. That's what that is.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's ever been where, you know, you're looking at the people ahead of you, the imaginary people ahead of you, and while like you're chasing them, it actually is slowing you down? Does that make sense?
I think emotionally, I would say that for this year. Um, so to be completely transparent, and part of me is like, you shouldn't share this because people are not going to understand. But I think also it is a good view into me. Um, So like coming into this year, I really wanted to reach $10 million of my company getting to $10 million of me trading $10 million. And like I got to a place where I had like half of that, but I still felt like I wasn't good enough. And I was like really beating myself up because, oh, Terry, you've only reached $5 million. Like like it's not enough. Um, and so emotionally, I think sometimes I can make myself feel like I haven't reached it, whatever that it is.
Mm,
Um, but then I had to realize this year, like I had to change my mindset to understand that like you have more than enough. And I had to realize like you are enough. Like just really understanding and embracing that word enough and content. Like there's the scripture in the Bible where Paul says, I've learned to be content in whatever season I'm in. If I don't have a lot or if I have plenty, I've learned to be content. And I think that's the thing that now I'm striving for. What does contentment look like? If that makes
yes.
sense.
Yes. No, it makes complete sense. And I asked that the slow down question because I was thinking about, and it's kind of the difference between inspiration and envy in some ways, at least when we're talking about like real people that we're looking at ahead of us and not the imaginary ones who are in our heads, where there have been times in the past where, you know, I actually, you know, there's a peer group that I keep track of from back in like 2008, 2010 from my blogging days. It's all of these people who, you know, we all kind of ran together. And a lot of these folks are like, they're doing extremely dope stuff. And I'm doing dope stuff too, you know, but there was a point in time where it was like, man, like, you know, I feel like I just got like left behind. And then
Mm.
what part of what happened with that and where the slowing down part came in is that I kept pivoting, but I wasn't like pivoting because it's what I wanted to do. It's what I felt like I needed to do to try to catch up with these other people who I felt were ahead of me. So it actually kept me off track. And so I'll give you an example real quick. I used to do career consulting, resume reviews for folks. I was a freelance writer for a few publications, writing on career and professional development related topics. And this was like 2000, this was probably like 2000, 2010, 2011, whatever year it was. And I ultimately like fell off because I got like so bogged down in like worrying and watching what other people were doing and feeling like I was getting left behind by my peer group who were talking about other topics that like I was like, oh man, like people don't care about this career stuff. Like people don't care about what I'm talking about. I need to talk more about these other things. And it slowed me down in the sense that, and I still think about this, like I've accepted it, and it's a lesson that I will preach going forward. But if I had just stayed on track, so kind of like how you talk about how you started investing in 2010, and you look at where you are a decade later. If I had stayed the course, I mean, even now, I'll find like old stuff that I just dropped to the side because I got so discouraged because of the level of comparison that I was making with other people. So even though I was doing well in my particular lane, I didn't feel like my lane was as cool or as respectable as some of these other lanes, which then impacted the way that I moved in the world. So that's what I meant by like the slowing down, where if I had just like stayed the course versus just like pivoting, trying to match what other people were doing, I still do get a little frustrated at myself, but I think about like where I could be along the journey, and maybe I am right where I am supposed to be. And maybe I went through this so that I could be sharing this at this exact moment on this live stream. But I noticed that has slowed me down in the past, that comparison game, and like, oh man, there's so much further to go. Like, oh, well, maybe I should be doing this, or maybe I should be doing that to try to get where these other people are, even though it's not
Yeah.
something that I'm personally excited to do. Like, I don't want to be a pop culture podcaster, and there's no shade about that. But that like that was the type of thing where it's like, oh man, like I have to be
They're
talking
doing
about this.
this and they're, yeah. Mm-hmm. There's so like I know I talk a lot about investing, but that's just my world right now. But there's a lot of students that I see this happening with too. And they'll see everybody else posting their wins. And then they'll start feeling like, well, I'm not good enough because I haven't had $1,000 a day, or I haven't had it this day. Um, and that can really, really hold you back, because those students that start seeing everybody else's wins, I see that they start shrinking down and they actually stop trying, or they don't feel good about the fact that they just made $200 a day. And I'm like, you just made $200 in a day. Like, that is huge. But they're starting to feel like, well, that's not huge because somebody else just made this. But it's not about their game. It's about like what that $200 could do for your life right now. Like, that's where the impact comes in, right? But
Yeah,
no, I completely feel you on the comparison thing, and that's why sometimes I hesitate to even share like what I've been able to do, because I feel like, oh, there'll be somebody who feels like, oh, well, I can't
discouraged.
relate to her anymore, or discouraged. But then I also share but I also know that I was inspired by seeing other people who had reached higher levels. Like when I hear, like earlier, I don't know, you probably didn't hear this, but when I was earlier this year, I did this Power of 1 Million, and I was having these conversations with other millionaires. And one of them I had with Ankar, who founded Teachable. And he was telling me that at that time, they only had one person who had made it to 8 figures. And so in my mind, I was like, oh, they had one person that made it, so I can make it too. Like, it inspired me. And then there was a couple friends this year who had had like these $1 million months. And so I said, oh my God, like, okay, the fact that you could do it, like I can do it too now. So like the reason I share is for those people who didn't think this was even possible, to see someone that looks like us that are doing these kind of things. And and so now I'm like, no, don't hold that part of your truth back because someone needs to know it. But at the same time, like, comparison is real. And this social media stuff that we got going on in our generation makes it so hard, because you think everybody else's life is perfect, and you see all these pictures and you feel like what you have isn't good enough. And that's not cool.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about, and we've talked about the like the keeping up with the Joneses on social media, but even within the for those who move in the entrepreneurial world in circles, I know that there are a few like bloggers and folks who post these like income reports of how much money, and I mean, there's some of them where like it's like they're making hefty amounts of change, but probably similar to what you're you're getting from some of the trades you're executing. And there was a point in time, and this was more so folks, they're doing affiliates and all of these other things. And like I was getting like so wrapped up in like, oh man, this person's generating $100,000 a month. They got this website and this business and this thing and that. And then it almost became it would become overwhelming for me to the point that I had to stop reading these things, because it would be like, all right, so I got to have an email list, or oh, like I got to update this website, like oh, I need to be on this platform, oh, I need to be doing this, like oh man, like I got to start this up. The next thing you know, you're juggling 30 different
50 million
things.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing 50, you're buying software and signing up for services because that's what you think it is required to be successful. But that's not ultimately what you want to be doing. And it shows, because you end up, it's like when you buy a bunch of stuff, like physical stuff you don't need. And at the moment it feels good, but then you end up, when you move, like I did a couple of months ago, and you got this box full of stuff, and you're like, I done spent all this money on this stuff trying to like keep up, and like I don't even use it. I don't even like this stuff, but you have it.
Man, it's so true. Like, okay, so full disclosure, I have Christmas lights up on my house right now because everybody in the block has Christmas lights. And part of me is like, yes, this is pretty, but this is also my electricity bill. And why am I paying up my electricity bill so that other people get to enjoy these lights? I don't even get to see them inside the house. Like I it's just crazy. But every holiday now, like we everybody decorated their yards for Halloween. So who had to go get Halloween decorations? Me. Who what? So like now I'm spending all of this money just trying to keep up with the block. Like it's real. And like yes, it's kind of nice and I enjoy like how pretty the neighborhood looks, but like I can see that becoming a problem if you don't check yourself real quick. Like we don't
Yeah.
have to be the one in it.
Yeah, don't be the person falling off the roof trying to put that last reindeer up to really stunt on the block. Like it ain't worth being laid out in the snow making angels, like
Oh,
waiting for the ambulance to.
you saw my roof? You saw the reindeer? No, I'm just playing.
I was like, oh snap! I mean, no shit. I didn't even know.
Nah,
I
I
didn't
don't
even.
have it. I don't got no reindeer. I was basic. I was like, look, we're gonna put up these white lights and that's it. We're gonna wrap them around this bush right here, and it's gonna look real festive, real festive.
Yes, the nice and simple. You just reminded me. I think we're getting our pseudo real slash fake tree this weekend. But yeah, I don't do the whole lights outside thing. I'm just not a like a holiday like that's not true. I enjoy the time with family and friends and the food and the relaxation, but like the being out there like hanging stuff, putting stuff in the front, not my thing. But we'll see. We'll see how that changes now that I'm out of apartment life, because that might also just be a
Right.
product of the places that I've been living, where now like I don't just want to be like the plain house on the block. So maybe that'll change over the years, but we'll see.
That's true. I can't wait to see you have kids too. I have a
I
feeling
was
you're gonna be the dad, like, okay, we gotta have everything for
that was my first thought, but I didn't say it. As I was talking, I was like, let me go to example number two, and I buy and I skipped that one, because I was thinking, I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna be that one. Um, but yeah, this is fun. I love this conversation and the spontaneity of it. And I even just like like gratitude in the moment. And I'm not even saying it to be like cheesy or corny, but I'm just like thinking, because I'm thinking about what I have to do when we jump off of this, and I got to
Oh
transfer
yeah, yeah,
back
yeah.
to.
Go ahead.
Oh, that wasn't my signal, by the way. That like I got to go. Even though Bay is waiting to order dinner. But that also wasn't my signal that I got to go. Um, but
We got you. We
I'm
got you. We're gonna get you
um
off here quick.
yeah, I'm just thinking of going back to what we're talking about with freedom and like the authenticity and like the and the sharing and being able to have this type of conversation. And so not just to be able to have this type of conversation, but to like have people like really in here and engaging with it and really flowing with this. Like I'm like, yo, I might really need to start showing up on your live streams because
Come on.
I think I see a lot of my people up in here, just in terms of what we're talking about. So I'm feeling really good and revitalized and rejuvenated right now, just from even like having this conversation about this stuff. So thank you for even creating this space for this live video conversation. You know.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Like, there's so many conversations that like I just like talking to people that are like-minded. And it's nice to be able to have a conversation where people get it. And I feel like you're somebody, you get it. Like you get the behind the scenes of being a creator, the struggles of trying to put out really dope content but still have a balanced life. So I appreciate you too. Like this has been really, really fun. Really
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. And I'll last thing or one of the last things I'll say, even though that's not my way of saying I gotta go, um, is like this year. I mean, it's been tough for all of us, and I think we've all had various things that have happened. I know I've had my fair share, and I think one thing I've noticed in the past few months, and then I'm kind of trying to tie it together with the authenticity, is that there are things that I've just started sharing that like I hadn't shared before. I was like, I can't put that out there. Like, what if someone from work finds out? And I'm not sure if it's a product of age. Maybe it's just naturally becoming more comfortable with self, but I'm finding that like I care less and less. And
Yeah.
that's then translating to being more open, and then that's as I said, like more good things are continuing to happen. And I never want to I never want to commodity well, I never want to like just share my story for the sake of like making money, because that would not be authentic. But I'm
Mhm.
finding as like I don't care, and I just speak what's on my mind and just say like, yo, here's my experience, here's how it is. What previously was a fear of like people are going to abandon and leave, and that goes back to some of that earlier childhood stuff. It's funny how those things show up in our life.
They do.
But whereas now it's like as I share more, I find that more people are actually coming out the woodworks and actually being supportive, which is pretty awesome. So I encourage people, whatever your values are, and if you haven't gotten clear on them, I encourage you to spend some time thinking about that. If you look up values exercise, there's a bunch of them out there that usually come in the form of like a list of words, and they'll ask you to circle your top 5 or 10, and then you whittle it down to
I need to do
the
one of
next
those.
tier. A book that also helped me get clear on values was Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. I think she's in
Mm.
Houston or Dallas.
Okay.
And she does a lot of work on like empathy and leadership, and like that book was one of the best books that I've ever read. And
Oh wow.
I encourage people just even just for just like general, just like good reading, like how to be a better team member, how to be a better partner, how to be like how to just like show up as like your full best self. I've gotten
Hmm.
a lot out of that. So I would encourage people, like if you haven't gotten clear on your values, find one of those exercises, or give that book a read if you haven't already. And I see someone saying the four agreements. I see.
It would change your life. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And
cool.
then a couple people said they love Brene Brown. So we gotta
Oh,
check that book out.
yeah, she's fit. Yeah, she's great. And she's got like TED Talks out there, and all of that stuff too. But yeah, there've been and that's actually, you asked me on the last show about self-care for 2021, and I think reading more is another thing.
I've been dying to read a book. I keep saying I'm going to sit down and read, and then I haven't done it yet. So that's my goal too. I want to read an actual book all the way through.
Yeah, I can't. I had this fear sometimes that I'm gonna be on like a podcast or something, and they're gonna ask me for a book recommendation. I'm gonna be like, I don't be reading.
Right? I don't know. Ask me next year. No.
Uh, so
Well,
yeah.
we will get you to your lovely girlfriend. I'm trying to see if there was any last minute things. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna end it like this. So I love this conversation, and your discussion of authenticity is so true. That's why I think that the Hot Mess Millionaire kind of sparked some things in me, because she was authentic. She tried to be her true self, and she told what she was really feeling, and then that resonated with some of the things that I had been feeling. So I'm hoping that our discussion here will do the same. It'll just, because we were able to be transparent, some people will see some resonation and be a little more free, because sometimes I think, like, when I saw the Hot Mess Millionaire, it gave me permission to feel the way I was feeling. Like, oh, someone else wasn't feeling happy even though they were doing this, or oh, someone else was feeling this kind of way. And so hopefully some people are going to get that breath of fresh air from us today, that I'm okay. I'm not abnormal. Nothing is wrong. Other people have felt this. I can make it through this and come out on the other side. So that's what I hope for people who hear this. And then the last thing I will say from the Hot Mess Millionaire is, we didn't even talk about this in our discussion. Maybe we can do this another time. But she had talked about these socially acceptable acts of self hate. And it
Oh,
was this overworking, self sacrificing, doing more than you're paid for, undercharging. But basically, she said we were being rewarded for treating ourselves like crap. She said the S word, but I'm not even going to cuss. But I want us to stop doing that. I want us to be cognizant of, if you're doing something in your job, whether that's entrepreneurship, your 9 to 5, whatever it is, but you're giving, and then you're not seeing any return from it, or it's making you feel worse about yourself. I want you to check yourself, because sometimes that might be an act of self hate, even though other people call it something great. Like, she was talking about how, yeah, you might give out all your services for free, but at the end of the day, you're treating yourself like crap, because you're putting all this effort in and you're not getting any reward for that. So we just need to be mindful of that and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves.
yes, I love that. You just made me think of, this is going to sound simple or silly potentially for some folks, but if you do have a day job and you have vacation days, use them. I've noticed for some reason, and I'm guilty of this too, and it's along the lines of self hate, where I think sometimes I've noticed it particularly with people of color, is where we feel like we have to like make all these excuses and justify when we take a day off, even though it's our vacation time, and we feel bad about using that time that we actually have. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just encourage people, that if you have that time, use it, and you don't have to explain why you're taking the time that you've been given as part of your compensation for the work that you have put in. So you just reminded me of that. So I wanted to make sure I said that.
That's good. Exactly. And as we wrap up, how can they find you, Rich?
Yes. So I am at page. We're live. I am at Pay Balances on Twitter and Instagram. If you go there, you'll also get a link to my personal accounts, which are at I am Rich Jones on Twitter and Instagram. But if you're into the inspiration, motivation, personal finance, career advice, definitely follow at Pay Balances. Check out the podcast, Paychecks and Balances. Check out the podcast/blog website at paychecksandbalances.com. And I do respond unless you come off entitled, in which case
He
I may not.
blocks you,
Yeah,
blocks you just like
yes,
this. No.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, this has been a lot of fun. So I encourage folks to follow along, and if you do follow along, shoot me a message, say, hey, heard you on the live stream, so I know who you are, and I can make sure that we all keep in touch and do this social media thing going forward.
Yes, yes. And you didn't put in a plug, but I'm gonna put in a plug for you. In 2021, you may have a YouTube channel coming out too. So they're gonna
Yes.
have to stay tuned for that.
Yes, yes, I know. I'm sitting here. I'm like, "Darn, darn, I wish it was up now." But yes, I do have a YouTube channel that's in the works. That's why I'm on this camera, and I got this nice hot light on my forehead right now. That's a whole other thing. But much more to come on that. So definitely follow, at Pay Balances at I am Rich Jones, and there'll be I'm gonna be talking about it really soon. So
Nice. Well, take your time. We just talked about self care. Enjoy the holidays.
oh
We will see you in 2021 with this fabulous YouTube channel. And in the meantime, they can check out your podcast because it's fire. And I'm about to be on it in a couple weeks too.
yes, so yes, folks, please do check it out.
All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. We just did this impromptu, so I'm so glad that you guys got a chance to join. Please like this and share it with whoever you feel like might like this conversation so that we can spread the word. All right. I'll talk to y'all later and see y'all in Trade and Travel. Bye.